What's up, musicologists? This is another episode of Amari Music Talk. I'm Richard Cole. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're a longtime listener, welcome back. All right, so now we are in the full swing of 2025. I hope you had a chance to check out the previous episode of our 2025 predictions. Got some more coming up soon. But today, what I wanted to talk about, or kind of go more in depth in in 2025, is what kind of Prince fan should we be at this point? Um, I think here we are, we're so deep, we're coming up on almost 10 years. When we hit 2026, be 10 years, since we lost this amazing artist. And, I think those first few years, while we were trying to cope with it, we're trying to still sort it out. Um, at least the Prince Estate, at least that version of it, there was a little bit of consistency where I think we were more united in going forward, meaning that, they may not have had an overall plan. There've been all kind of roadblocks and bumps and hurdles to kind of overcome. But, we were getting something, whether it was the Purple Rain, we can kind of call it a super deluxe. We had Prince Originals. There was that 1983 Piano to Microphone. We had 1999 Super Deluxe, Sign of the Times Super Deluxe. But it seemed to be consistent. We even had reissues of, a lot of the 90s and the 2000s albums. We had reissues of those. And regardless of where you were on, whether you had a specific era that you enjoy or whether you enjoyed the journey, the entire catalog, there seemed to be a consistency. And like I said, we all seem to be united in celebration, regardless of the era. But since the new regime of the Prince Estate, and another, just other factors that have been involved. Um, like I said, it's one thing to have your favorite era, your favorite album, favorite look of Prince or whatever. It's okay to have that, and music is subjective. But it seemed to be, and I don't know if it was because of the social media platforms. Um, I've just done an episode about that photo that was circulating, young kid playing a Rickenbacker bass that people mistakenly took for Prince. Um, but it's not. It's Foster Silvers, and I've done a complete video on that on YouTube, so definitely check that out. But while I thought like, okay, well, if you innocently just didn't know, you get a pass. But again, you've got these bots, you've got these idiots out there that are, just causing havoc online, to the point where some of it, like I said, it's just stupid idiots, but then also to propaganda type stuff that's going around. And like I said, some of that kind of filters into the Prince world. I think that photo in some circles was circulating on that basis. And it wasn't innocent. It was just to get on people's nerves. There's also that, where people will shout out a particular favorite Prince era, but then they'll backhand and insult other people, ageism, there's racism, there's all kind of stuff in this. It kind of makes it uncomfortable. I know for myself, that's why one of the reasons I left X or Twitter or whatever, or really just social media in general. I mean, I do have a Blue Sky account, and that seems to be pretty peaceful. Threads, for the most part, seems to be pretty peaceful. Instagram, Facebook, I only just promote what's going on, my projects or the show or things like that. Um, but like I said, when the ones where or the groups or even the pages, or like I said, you just post or you post something innocent like, hey, this is my favorite album. Somebody's always got something negative to say. And again, they have a right to their opinion. But also in the mix, you kind of have this new regime of the estate where, I'll put it this way. This is now a business model. This is now a business model. And they're not obligated to owe us any explanation on what's coming out, what they're doing, anything like that. This is now business. This is not an artist releasing a new album and promoting it the way we're used to that. So, so there's this silence, and we haven't really, not since the Diamonds and Pearls release, and then there was a lot of silence even prior to that. But we don't have a plan for 2025. We've missed the celebration of Purple Rain. Just a few things. We did get the 4K Blu-ray, which was cool. We did get, at least on streaming, Adobe Atmos mix, which is phenomenal. But no physical release, no updated box set. And now we're here, we're doing the Purple Rain 2.0. We're still carrying the celebration over. Maybe we'll get something else then. And some other things I'll address in another video. But with this video, like I said, where should we be? Where are we going? How do you support the estate? How do you support a business model when we're not sure what the mission statement is? It's like, oh, honor the legacy. Okay, well, how are we going to do that? What are you going to do that? Oh, what celebration again, which, some people were just happy to be there. Others were like, well, for the price point, it wasn't enough, so where do we go? And like I said, you got social media, you had that controversy with the Netflix documentary, where it's like a lot of people want to see it, other people don't want to see it, and both sides, at odds. And sometimes you even got those bots in there, no matter how fair or balanced you may bring an argument, or you try to keep it peaceful, everything comes back negative. Or you got some folks that's like, well, maybe they're hoping they'll get free stuff if they just, curse people out on behalf of the estate, or, they'll get a chance to write an essay for the next Super Deluxe. And it's like, no, those spots are earned. Those are legitimate fans. Those are people that are doing the work, that are getting those, the free stuff to review on the channels, or, like I said, to write an essay for the next Super Deluxe that comes out. That's a spot that's earned, and cursing other people out isn't going to get you that job, no matter what. So what, again, what should we do to, as a fan, if, you're wondering what should you do or how should you listen to Prince, especially if you're a newbie in all of this, like, and you go on here and you see all this craziness and the stupidity and the division, and there's other legacy artists, box sets and compilations and this and that is coming out right and left. But for one of the biggest artists of the 20th and 21st century, what's going on, what's taking place. So here, just for me, and if it has some relevance for you too, then cool. Hopefully this is how you can proceed going forward from 2025 forward. We're not playing the victim Olympics in this. We're not, name calling anybody. We're not chastising the estate, although it's a business, and as a consumer, you have a right to voice your opinion about the product or lack of product or the quality of product. So if you keep it on that basis, cool. So here we go. Uh, First and foremost, and this is something when I kind of took my little break here and got off the social media. Number one is keep your fandom personal. And like I said, when I kind of took my break, one of the beautiful things about it was that when I went to go listen to a Prince album, whether it was 1999, the original album, or tracks from the Super Deluxe, or if I jumped ahead to Rave to the Joy Fantastic, 3121, and came back to, say, maybe listening to For You or something like that. It was nice because if I didn't go on social media, I didn't have, whether it was my personal memories of an album or personal experience while that album was out, it wasn't tarnished by, somebody's negative comment, like, oh, that era sucks, or, well, that's the main one, this era sucks. It wasn't tarnished by that. It was like, just like going back to before social media, before I was even doing a podcast, or even before me doing one, listening to a lot of people that do Prince podcasts that I respect. Long before that stuff, it was just me listening to Prince, or if it was, say, fellow musicians, and that was sort of one of the musics that we bonded over was, Prince or whatever, or Madhouse or the Family or the Time, then it was kept within that circle. Or like I said, it was just personal. If it was me in the car, or if it was me at home and just listening to it, and it was just that experience with those sounds and myself, you know. So, like I said, music is subjective. And I think what I try to do, and I know I've done this with a post, it might have been a couple of years ago, like shout out your favorite era without putting down the other eras, and that's what it is. I mean, I've got Prince albums that are my favorites. There's some that, okay, I might have heard one, listened to once or twice and really haven't bothered to go back, or I go back every few years. And then there's some that, since 1980, whatever, it's been nonstop, or, same thing with some of the 90s stuff, some of the 2000s. Um, Artificial Age is one of my favorite 21st century Prince albums. But it was just that joy of just listening to it by myself, not having to check in with social media or go on social media and just have that whole moment ruined by, like, again, some idiot and all they want to do is be negative, or they don't know how to be, share what's their favorite without putting somebody else down. So yeah, definitely keep your fandom personal. Number two, you don't need anyone else's permission, approval, or forgiveness for what you like. Again, music is subjective. Movies are subjective, books are subjective. What I like, someone else may not like. What I don't like, somebody else may like. And we're kind of at this time now where it's either this or that. And there's no middle ground. There's no way to meet in the middle. There's no room for negotiation. It's like you either like this or you hate this, or you love this or you hate this. And especially with social media. And it's not just Prince fans, really. I think it's an extension of, again, just those times we live in. It's like this view or that view, and nobody's coming in the middle to, you know, find a way, to find balance, or to find peace, even. Everybody wants to be angry. Everybody wants to, argue and debate, or it's like, I'm absolutely right, you're absolutely wrong, this is better, this is, this type of stuff. And it's like, again, there's a lot of people that just, if you're one of those people, you just want to just share a piece of your world. That's what I guess the original intent of, with the internet or social media was, that, it's like, hey, I'm over here on this side of the world, and these are the things that I like, you know. Or even if you don't care for something, there's a way you can do it without putting down somebody that does enjoy a certain thing, So again, you don't need anybody's input on what you like. People can have an influence a bit if it's a positive influence, but you are in control of what you like. You make the choice on what you want to listen to, what era, what album, what artist, even. It's okay to like, you know, uh, what did Chris Rock say? It's okay to like Seinfeld and the Wu-Tang Clan. It's okay. Harder for people to kind of find that common ground, but it's okay if you like both. It's all right if you want to look at both of those. Um, Number three, and like I said, if you are a supporter of the channel, if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, um, what I want to do more with this show is also want to focus in on you guys. Make sure you guys are okay. Always in the comments now. From here on out, it's about, shouting out your favorite album, shouting out your success story. How did a piece of music, whether it was an album or a particular song, how did that influence you to strive to live your best life? Are you living your best life? I know I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to upgrade the journey at this point. And, like I said, you guys are coming along for the ride, as, like I said, whether it's Patreon supporters or whether it's just subscribing and liking on YouTube and checking in every episode. Um, any one of those things, checking out any one of my projects, whether it's on streaming or stuff that's coming up. Hopefully, definitely this year, some other projects too that's coming up. But yes, what number three is to focus on you is more important than any physical release. So what does that mean? I know whenever I would talk about, say, if like I'll take Diamonds and Pearls, which is probably the most recent major release. Um, there were times in announcing that, I've seen in some of the comments where it's like, I can't afford that set. I've got too much going on. I can never afford that at all. And even when you would, let somebody know, well, hey, you don't have to buy the box set. You could just buy the CD, just a remaster of the original album. If you have a streaming service, then check the album on that. And it seems to be like this sort of peer pressure, when you see a lot of us on YouTube and we're unboxing and we're showing this, yeah, we work hard every day too. We support our families as well. And I know myself, what I do like with something like that is the beauty of Amazon is when you pre-order, then that doesn't take your money out until they're ready to actually ship it. So when it's getting ready to come out, used to be that day of release 2 days earlier, they're shipping it out. But around that time, when they ship it out, that's when they take your money. So if it's announced 2, 3 months ahead of time, then it's like you could pre-order and then give yourself time to save up and do that. But the focus on you is more important than having that physical release in hand. If you got your dollars working for you, you got no worries, you know, you living your best life, you can afford that lifestyle without worrying about your lights and this and that, then yeah, by all means, go for that super deluxe edition. You know, get the vinyl and the CD if you can. But if that's not where you are at this point, that Prince album, that super deluxe edition doesn't matter. You're more important. Having food on your table is more important. Having a roof over your head is more important. Getting out of debt is more important than that. You know, building some type of plan for your future or your family's future, you know, to build a nation within a nation, to build a family, to build generational wealth. That's what's more important than any Prince album. If Prince was here, he'd tell you that. You know, The Beautiful Ones, that book, freedom, ownership, and the definition of funk. And those three things I did cover in previous episodes that nobody watched, but I'm going to revisit that and we're going to take a deeper dive into that in relationship to how Prince tried to live that as an example with that. But your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health is more important than any physical release or anything, you know, and shout out, you know, to that individual. You know, it's like, well, you couldn't get this box set because yes, your family's more important than that release. You know, the music's not going to go anywhere. Get yourself to a certain level, and even if it's like, you know, the price points on these super deluxe editions, you know what I like about there's Sean Lennon, who's John Lennon's son. He's now in charge of the John Lennon estate now. You know, Yoko's up there now, and I think, you know, I guess she, you know, like, hey, son, take this over. It's now yours to run. And with that recent Mind Games box set, that album, and there's various versions of it based on your price point. You know, there's one that's like $1,000 that, you know, it's more of an art piece than it is a box set. But I mean, it has everything. It's got the vinyl, it's got the CD, it's got the books, it's got this, it's got that in this package very nicely. But not everybody can afford that. And it is limited edition. But what I like about how he is running the estate is that it's like, hey, if you can, you can get this. But if you can't, and he's not trying to pressure you and like, oh, everybody that's a John Lennon fan must have this, or they're not. No, he's not coming at you like that. It's like, get this $1,000 set if you can. If not, here's the box set of the vinyl. Here's the box set of the CD. Here's a 2 CD package that you can have, or 2 vinyl package. Here's just the original album. And if nothing else, hey, you paid X amount of dollars a month for streaming services. Everything is on streaming for you to listen to. So you have access, whether it's physical or streaming, you have access to it based on your level of comfort. And as Prince fans and the estate should make that abundant too. You know, it's like, hey, here's the box set, here's the super deluxe. If you can get it, get it. But hey, we're not going to alienate you if you can't get it. You have options of this, you have options of that, and you have options to stream it. You have that. So again, focus on you is more important than any physical release. Exclusive Amari Music Talk merchandise. Visit richardcolemusic.com. Get Amari Music Talk t-shirts. We Funk to the Last Band t-shirts, and all kinds of new merchandise, everything designed by me, of course, and all proceeds help develop new content for the channel. Link in the description is below. And now this brings us to number 4. And this is the toughest one that we're all trying to reconcile at this point on all sides of it, whether it's the estate themselves, whether it was the previous people in charge of the estate, and the fan base in general, whatever era that you like. But this is number four, and this is something that we have to come to grips with moving forward. Prince is no longer here. His body of work and likeness are now intellectual property. I think we, for whether it's conscious or unconscious, or like I said, we've been trying to come to grips with this for the last 9 years now. And I think what we got used to was the fact that we had the artist here in real time. And even though there was all this stuff in the vault, he was still coming out with new product. He was still trying to challenge our expectations, challenge our musical tastes a lot of times, you know, do things on his own terms. He had his own ideas. And sometimes those ideas went against the grain of how you put out a record, whether you're a major record label or even an independent label, or you're a guy with the computer and you can come out with an album and drop it on streaming at the drop of a hat. Now that he is no longer here, you don't have that out of the box thinking any longer. You don't have the challenge of expectations. What you have left is now a catalog. It's a body of work that's left. Again, there's image, there's likeness, there's licensing, there's branding. Unfortunately, that's what is left. The byproduct of that is again these legacy releases, and as most of us as fans, that's what we're pretty much here for, is to have remastered quality, quality work of previous releases. We're looking forward to quality releases of anything that's in that vault, whether it's in a compilation, whether it's a live album, a special something for Record Store Day. That's what we pretty much live for. But again, because it's now intellectual property, and that also includes his likeness, his name, and everything else not associated with making records or manufacturing records. Then we've got stuff like Broadway shows and documentaries and songs and commercials and songs to compile for a romantic comedy, just featuring all the music and stuff like that. That's what we have left. So it does get a little frustrating. Again, when you hear like, oh, Purple Rain's being turned into a Broadway musical, it's like, well, on the one hand, it keeps the name out there. But I know me personally, I'm not a fan of Broadway shows, but I respect the craft and those that do it and things like that. That certain songs could end up in commercials for, products that Prince himself didn't buy. Like what if he bought a particular brand of soap, but the state has now licensed it to a different brand that he never would have touched, but it's like that money has to keep rolling in. Unfortunately, it when I look at other legacy artists, primarily like Jimi Hendrix and Frank Zappa, to me, where although like the Zappa family, you think the Prince drama is bad, Prince estate drama is bad. The Zappa family drama was probably a few notches above what the Prince estate is dealing with now. but they were able to kind of agree as a family, and they've primarily just cashed out, so they don't have to deal with the day to day. They don't have to deal with certain decisions regarding, like, well, how should we put this release out? Oh, should we do this type of documentary or that type of documentary? It's like, here's Universal, and they are now the custodians of that estate. Jimi Hendrix, that's kind of the opposite of it, because Jimmy's sister is still running the show. She's got a good team around her. And you don't see her, when somebody disagrees with Hendrix product, you don't see her on the social media clapping back at folks and going off on folks, and then taking Jimmy's words and making posts like it's inspirational, but it's a backhand slap to the fan base. It's like you don't see that. It's like you didn't see that when Yoko Ono was like, and to be honest, as much as that woman was hated, she didn't clap back on anybody. She's just like, okay, well, you know what? Here's another John Lennon reissue. Here's another John Lennon remaster. Here's another John Lennon box set. And every Beatle fan is like right there with their dollars, shelling it out, shelling it out. So again, that's to me, that's the thing that I respect, if as a consumer, is I'm not affected because I don't dislike Yoko Ono. I mean, quiet as this kept, there are some records I do enjoy. I mean, her solo stuff. My first exposure to her music actually was the Double Fantasy album. That was the first John Lennon album. I had some Beatle records and I had some Paul McCartney records, but right when I heard John was coming back, I was like, okay, cool. I'm ready for that release. Unfortunately, I got that album after he was, taken away from us. So, but that was the first time I heard her, because half of the tracks on there are her tracks, and I'm like, well, this isn't so bad. Actually, there's one track that's very, I would say, in line with Prince, almost like Dirty Mind era Prince, and it's called Kiss, Kiss, Kiss. That is, that was kind of like, huh, that was a little funky, I kind of like that. But like I said, again, I know the history, and I know that she is definitely hated amongst Beatles fan base. But like I said, instead of her clapping back, like I said, what she does or what she's done or allegedly done or didn't do or whatever you thought she didn't affect me personally. I enjoyed the records. But what I do like as a consumer is if somebody has an issue, maybe not necessarily in that case with the product, but they have an issue with the person in charge of the product. And that person, like I said, they're going about their business and making their money. That's really the most important thing, because to take your time out to clap back at somebody, then meanwhile, your competitors or your haters have now gotten 2 steps or 10 steps ahead of you, when it's like, no, your main focus is trying to make that money. you know, you're putting out a product, a quality product, then the people behind that quality product has got to be above, lower nature thinking. That's how it is. That's the thing. It's just like, okay, that's what they think. Yep, here's another box set. And watch those people come running with their ducats. If it's good quality product, they're still, they're going to buy it. People are, you should know this. People are going to say whatever they're going to say, but you know what the truth is. So Prince is no longer here. His body of work and his likeness are now IP. And the final thing is, most of our physical media, that is now, or they are now, assets of value and you have to make sure your life is too. You know, um, like I said, going back to, we spend money, whether, anything, whether it's, there's people that, designer clothes, designer handbags, you buy, your car, you paying more for your car and you could barely make rent, or you could barely make whatever, or you don't even have a house, you can barely make rent, no financial plan, no estate plan. And like I said, if there's anything to learn from Prince's life, and like I said, we'll get deeper into it. It's not only the freedom, it's not, well, there's the ownership that's important. Definitely a definition of funk. Music's definitely funky. So also too, is that I don't think we would have any of these problems that we have, or this division, or this knowing and not knowing what's going on, or like we'd rather have this set run the estate rather than that set run the estate, or whatever it is. Those things, if he had only if he had some type of an estate plan. I mean, I get it. He married twice, you know, probably the one thing that did elude him is a family, you know. Um, and since maybe he came to grips with there's no heir that I could leave it to, what's the point? On the one hand, I get it and I understand it. I do get it, or you have felt like he probably didn't feel comfortable leaving it, or maybe he had a secret plan with Tyke or something. Who knows? Who knows? That's something we'll never really get to the bottom of or ever find out. That's just speculation, or me just speculating. But what we've accumulated over the years, it's really, an asset of some kind of value. Um, Granted, a lot of it's depreciated because we've opened up the packaging and we've played it. But again, it goes back to you controlling your life, you managing your finances to where, once you've mastered that, then the acquisition of assets that can appreciate in value. Now, granted, this is a music podcast. I am not a financial advisor. There's some things in my journey, but I've always had to cash out or whatever to survive. And, it's like trying to rebuild and stuff like that. So none of this is any advice on, to buy anything, hold anything, or sell anything of that nature. But again, it's physical media. It does have some value, but you know, like I said, to take control, who knows, over time, 10 years, 20 years, you might be able to say, okay, whatever box set, you know, you be in control of whatever, and you've got enough, don't have to worry about food on the table or lights on the roof or anything like that. Yeah, kick down for two. One that you open up and play, and the other one, you leave that sucker wrapped up for your kids or your grandkids or any future generation. Because down the road, who knows? Maybe there won't be any more physical media, or it would become like this sort of, not a novelty, but like almost like a luxury of sorts, where it's like, just like vinyl came back, all the physical media will go away, and then another 30, 40, 50 years, it'll come back again. You never know. And like I said, your kids or your grandkids or whoever, they'll have that Prince collection of yours. And in addition to, like I said, if you have a decent plan and a decent estate plan or something, you'd be good to go. You'd be good to go. But yeah, so I mean, most of our physical media, they could potentially be assets of value 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years down the line, but like I said, at the end of the day, it's just an artist. I mean, I hate to say that and be that blunt, but it's brings to mind um, a quote from John Lennon. Yeah, because at that time in the 70s, late 70s, people were always like, almost the minute the Beatles broke up in 1970, they were like, when you getting back together? When you getting back together? Is there going to be a Beatles reunion? People trying to come up with astronomical amounts of money to put them back together. And, you get various answers, but one of my favorite responses comes from him. And it's like where he says, look, it's just a rock group that split up. It's no big deal. You got the records if you want to reminisce. And, like I said, for me, the box sets, excuse me, the box sets, these new compilations that come out, stuff that we're getting from the vault officially in good sound quality, trade it all in. If he could be back here in real time, in good health, and whatever. I don't think he was in a bad financial state, but he was in control. He got his masters back. Would trade all of the stuff that we've gotten from 2017 on, would trade it all in for him to be back with us in real time, putting on great shows, putting out great new records and stuff like that. So I don't know, shout out in the comments, your favorite Prince album. Shout out in the comments, whatever, again, personal memory. And like I said, anybody that comes, hating or acting up, one negative comment, you out. It's taken off as soon as I read it, as soon as it's brought to my attention, because it's just about, like I say, your success story. What is your success story? What were what have you achieved? What are you going through? And that Prince album was there, or that Prince song was there. Which one did it? Your best memory, your happiest memory. What are you looking forward to if we start getting back into a good pattern of releases? What are you looking forward to? Shout that out in the comments. Also, be sure to become a Patreon supporter. We got a special 50% off on all tiers. There's some great stuff on there already for 2025. There's more stuff coming in 2025. So become a supporter, get early access to episodes like this, get access to the bonus and exclusive content. You've got buying power, so you can create a topic or even a question, can make an episode that'll be a Patreon exclusive. So you have that power to do that. There's a special 50% off all tiers. The promo code is 9B404. So check that out. If you're on YouTube, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. The audio version of this episode is on your favorite podcast platform. So be sure you download that as well and listen on the go. And until then, create your day, create your life. Peace.